Anya's performance, especially towards the end of the movie, and that hate, that pure desire to take down the Dementors is so strong. And it really inspired me. And the way that Anya plays that whole development all the way up to the end tells you, as a composer, what journey you have to make that a good narrative.
Certainly on a George Miller movie, sound is very important. Sound can carry a lot of emotion, and you can use sound, if you want to, as a powerful tool in filmmaking.
Working on this film is not what I would consider a normal film score type job.
Normally in the mix, at least traditionally, there's always a battle between the composer and the sound design people, and say, oh, we can't hear the effects, or we can't hear the score. Rob McKenzie, the sound designer, and Tom both got involved with each other early.
We had a real simpatico, I guess. He's been creating all of this music, which sounds like vehicles. I don't think the audience will be able to even tell what's sound and what's music.
We're both so focused on sound and what sound does and the way that music and sound design interact. We really feel like we're a tandem that are not fighting each other, but complementing each other.
The sharpness of the impact, great, if you can get more boof into it.
Sure.
Yeah, rumble the whole theatre. Yeah.
George is very specific. It's in the specificity of the direction that we find the overall feeling of the soundtrack.
My first big notes is the bees. It'd be great if the bees were very present.
Yeah.
So one of the rules for the wasteland is it must be a found object and then able to be repurposed as well. We have a real sound, but we also repurpose that to be an emotive sound.
This one's for me.
The film opens with Furiosa in a peach tree surrounded by bees.
I'll get that one for you.
I've taken those bees and affected them and sort of twisted the bees so they take on Furiosa's feelings.
Stay very still.
And that sound then becomes a motif throughout the film as her character develops.
Make it a bee documentary. Yeah.
Now, we have a problem.
The music kind of emerges out of the sound design. We're unaware of when it begins, I think.
Everything that happens to Furiosa is seen through her eyes, like even the other characters in the movie. Technically, her theme is a very simple pulse. Dum bum bum ba da dum bum ba ba bum. And this pulse changes like in character and in speed. If something is happening that is fearful to her, it has flutters in it. Almost like heart palpitations. When we're in certain action moments, the pulses speed up and they get faster with like erratic rhythms to underscore the unpredictability, what might happen. Awesome, let's record immediately. That's all great. A few organic instruments really take center place in this score. One is the duduk. It comes from Armenia, and it has this really soaring tone that immediately draws you to like the deepest felt emotions. The second one is the didgeridoo. The didgeridoo and the duduk are both responsible for holding that feeling of home. I've been working with William Barton, a great didgeridoo artist. He's a deeply intense player that really lives the Aboriginal culture. It's probably one of the oldest instruments that we have on the planet.
I was just reacting to the film in there, so I feel like I just should do that, and then we see where it takes us.
Yeah. And if you feel you want to try a number of takes, it's completely up to you.
As the movie progresses and it becomes less and less likely she will ever be able to go back, that the Dug and didgeridoo becomes more faint, until at a certain point we can't hear it anymore. And the only thing that's left is pure hate to take the Mantis out. Other sounds in this film score are almost exclusively made with a synthesizer system that's called Buchla. This thing has such a unique way of creating the most bizarre pulses, rhythms, soundscapes, whatever you want. With this system, I was able to create very, very aggressive sounds for her that at that point become prominent in the score.
Give them back.
By the time she talks to the Mantis and she starts hitting him, the hits do not give her the satisfaction. And so there's a little bit of music there, but it's very faint. And as she hits him, it becomes more faint and more faint and more faint. Did anybody play here on Fury Road like 10 years ago? Yeah. Oh, good amount. We were able to build a score that is now the perfect handoff into Fury Road. So it's like jump, 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 and then let it just ring out.
Music is the internal narrator of the story. We're always in stories going from the specific of the character to the larger universal themes. And that's, I think, what music does best.
So tell me what you guys are doing.
So we're on a shoe pile, and we have to throw shoes and just scavenge around for the right
We have
pair.
to find the same pair of each shoes.
Yeah.
Then if it doesn't fit us, we can pass it to him and then me. And then, yeah, that's basically it.
Yeah.
As human beings, wherever we are in time and space, we have the same patterns of behavior. And one of the most interesting things about working in the world of Mad Max is that even though the stories are set in some degraded future, we go back to behaviors that are at least medieval or pre-medieval. So in a way, it's forward to the past. And in that, we measure it against the current zeitgeist and the things that were experienced in our time.
I really remember seeing Fury Road, and one of the thoughts that I had when I left that cinema was, that is my idea of hell. Everything is just aggression and death, and hope, is barely there. And if it is there, it's this one tiny little sapling.
It's familiar yet unfamiliar. It's inviting yet brash and offensive.
I think humans are fascinated by the idea of catastrophe. I think there's a sense in which we go, that's when I'd find out who I really am. Or perhaps I'd become more than I am. I mean, as much as I hope it doesn't happen.
I think everybody's drawn to the Mad Max films because of the idea of the freedom. When every day people are going to work doing all the same things they're doing, I think sometimes they really wish they could be out in the wasteland.
That's the thing that has always really struck me as a Mad Max fan, is what happens to us when this structure that we built falls down and we're back in the jungle. Who do we become? Is it because the laws are instilled that we follow them, or is there something intrinsic in us? What is our true nature?
These movies, you know, sometimes I see what's going on in many parts of the world right now, and I'm going, this is like a month or so away. It's more an information booklet rather than entertainment.
I believe that they're drawn to it because it's just another alternative to living. In the wasteland, you're living in a civilized society, as up as that may seem to some people.
I think it's just the fact that something's happening afterwards. At least there's a future. At least it totters on. Maybe that's almost enough for us, and then we don't have to change what we're really doing or who we are or how we are. It'll keep staggering forward.
There's a notion in technology that the future is here, it's just unevenly distributed. There are some pockets of human behavior which are very clearly futuristic. We're anticipating where we may perhaps be even a century from now. But there are others in which the behavior is very, very elemental. That's a spectrum of behavior that's available to you in the Mad Max world or the wasteland world. That's one of the big attractions to these stories. That's why they won't let me go. That's a long answer, but you'll be able to trim it up.